World. It's 8 a.m. Pacific, and we'll get started. I know some folks are still joining. And welcome to the Syntergy webinar series. Today's webinar topic is Syntergy Cloud Lift Migration Service for the OpenText Content Suite platform. We're going to talk a little bit about, how you can easily migrate over to a cloud environment if you're ready. So we're going to be discussing that. Sorry, let's see. Sorry about that. My name is Vijay Sharma, and I'm the VP of Sales and Business Development. And also joining today on this call will be two of my colleagues, Greg Warden and Robbie Spencer. They both will be demonstrating the solutions we will be discussing in this webinar. And before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please use the chat window, and we will answer your questions as we get them. We will also leave some time at the end of the webinar. We will also leave some time at the end of the webinar for additional questions. Please also note that the webinar is being recorded. And Matt, I think make sure it's been recorded. Yep. And we will send you a link of the recording after the webinar. So let's get started. As you know, the cloud infrastructure is ready for prime time today. Our customers and partners tell us that the biggest pain points of migrating to the cloud are the migration costs, the effort required, the knowledge, and the disruption to the business, which is kind of one of the main items that we find is a problem for most customers. The benefit of migrating to the cloud at the basic level, as you probably know, is really the strength of having an elastic infrastructure so you can scale up and down if required depending on your needs, right? But there are other benefits as well in terms of costs, decreasing hosting costs. In the cloud, you no longer have to worry about costs and conditions of keeping physical servers running. Basically, a third-party data center manages the servers, and you pay a subscription. CIOs are also ranking operational agility at the top of the top driver for the cloud adoption. And what we find is that moving to the cloud will give you that agility. And of course, you want to decrease your footprint. You might have servers on-prem that don't scale up and down based on your needs, and this is a way of saving another cost. Another sort of area is really disaster recovery, where this is an important to businesses of all sizes, but it's historically expensive for smaller businesses. And today, the cloud is helping more organizations implement a backup and recovery solution, and it takes less time and upfront investment. And then finally, security. Cloud providers are good at keeping unwanted traffic from accessing your data by rolling out regular security updates and leaving you free from security threats. So while you can take care of what matters to your business. So just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of on kind of what we'll be covering. Let's wanted to kind of show you the agenda, and then we'll jump into the presentation. So the agenda for today is that we'll talk a little bit about the cloud migration strategies that are out there. You're probably familiar with most or some. Then we'll talk about a little bit about the challenges our customers and partners are telling us and what we're seeing when we're taking a customer to the cloud. And then we'll be jumping into three use cases, really showing you the solutions, and we provide services along with all these options. So if you don't have the expertise, we can work with you and help you deliver these services. But the first area where we'll be demonstrating is really your classic content server environment. you might be on the latest and greatest version, let's say content server 20.x, but you want to move to the cloud. So that's kind of more of a rehosting and lift and shift method. Or you might be in an older legacy platform. You might be on a content server 10.5. You want to move to the latest, but you also want to go to the cloud. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And sometimes you might not be ready to take all your data to the cloud. So some customers would like to leave a little bit of, certain lines of businesses on-prem, and we'll talk about, how you can do that as well. We also recommend that during, prior to your migration to the cloud, to look at your data in terms of content optimization. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can compress your data, how you can standardize your data, and then also implement, application-centric data loss prevention technologies. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, as you know, a lot of these cloud services today are pervasive in your organization. Such as OneDrive, Microsoft 365, SharePoint Online, Teams, Box, Dropbox, you name it. I'm sure in most of your organizations you are involved with are using some form of these cloud services, and our customers are asking us, how can we integrate with Content Server and make sure that the data that's been used in the cloud is synchronized with Content Server for long-term record keeping. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Okay, so just a little bit of a intro to Syntergy for those of you who don't know us. We've been in business for about 24 years in the OpenText ecosystem, headquarters in San Diego, California, and our status with the OpenText, we're an OpenText technology partner, meaning that we provide solutions for the OpenText Content Suite platform, as well as consulting services that go with it, and anything from upgrades, migrations, as what we're talking about today, migrating you to the cloud. We utilize all our technologies. We're also an SAP partner. And then as well as a Microsoft partner, as well as SkySync and Foxit. The two technologies we're going to be showing you today are integrated with the SkySync platform, as well as the Foxit document compression servers. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So you've probably come across these terms. This is a sort of the standard terms. I call them the 6 R's of migration. And these are the most 6 common approaches to migrating your application to the cloud. The first one being rehosting, or you might have heard the term lift and shift. As the name implies, this involves lifting your infrastructure stack. So you might be, on the latest version of Content Server today, but you want to move to the cloud. Let's say you're on Content Server 20.1 or a 16.x. You don't want to upgrade, but you just want to move to the cloud. And you just want to shift your on-prem infrastructure to the cloud provider of your choice. And this is generally the sort of the quickest return on your ROI, your return on investment. The second option would be what we like to call is the re-platforming option, that you might be on an older version of Content Server. The core application still stays the same, but you want to move to the cloud as well as get to the latest version, right? So that's kind of, or you might even consider changing your database. You might be on Oracle in a Unix environment, but you might want to decide, I want to move to SQL in a Windows environment. So that's another sort of strategy that you could use. And then the third option is really, we already kind of touched a little bit on, but you might have certain lines of businesses that are not cloud ready yet for compliance reasons, for example. But you might have a strategy in your organization that most of the lines of businesses can move to the cloud. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well in our demonstrations today, as to how you can keep data synchronized with your on-prem servers with the servers in the cloud. Okay, and then The other last three options are really more to do with the SaaS platform, the software as a service platform. So this is what I like to call this is a repurchasing option, right? So you might be on a heavily customized older version of content server, and you might decide that you know the OpenText Cloud Edition makes sense. This is a pay-as-you-go service, and you know repurchasing might be a cost-effective option if moving from the highly customized environment. So that's kind of that. And then the refactoring piece is really something that you're doing special, you know, in terms of your application requirements, and you want to take advantage of technology in the cloud. This is generally the most expensive option. And then finally, as you're doing your, as you're assessing your portfolio for cloud readiness, you might come across applications that are no longer required. And you know, we recommend at that point in time, you can turn them off, and the results might save you, you know, money and even boost your business case for applications that are ready for the migration. So just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of what we're seeing in the market and the different strategies out there. The challenges when we talk to our customers and partners, the biggest challenges, or you know, customers are aware that they want to move to the cloud, but the biggest challenges are really these, you know, the ones highlighted here. For example, downtime, you know, outages. You know, to move to the cloud, you will have to take a temporary outage, and the migration process will require your on-prem servers to be offline for a while, and you want to minimize that. A lot of companies don't move to the cloud, or they're stuck in this mode because the downtime is too long, and it's going to be disastrous for your business. Moving to the cloud, sometimes there's a worry that we may lose some data. You know, all the data there won't be a full fidelity. We might not get access to all our data. Again, you know, these are some of the things that you should be aware of, and we'll talk about how we can address that. We find this, the third bullet here, resource management. We find that not all IT professionals trust the cloud. Employees who were used to managing physical servers might need educating on the new infrastructure. In other cases, cloud adoption requires introducing new IT management roles, etc. So this is a thing that you'll need to address as well. And then sometimes just the making sure your existing applications communicate properly to the newly cloud environments, right? So you might have some processes in-house that we want to make sure that communicate properly. These are only a few of the sort of challenges, but I just wanted to highlight. But you know, by careful planning, testing, and resourcing, you know, we can get you to the cloud. Syntergy, you know, has been doing this for a while now, and we can help you migrate with confidence. Okay, so in terms of before we jump into our first use case of showing you how to lift and shift an OpenText content infrastructure to the cloud, I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit on you know, the high-level steps that you would have to do if you were doing this without the Syntergy solutions that we offer for the moving of lifting and shifting to the cloud. So at the high level, you know, you would build your new infrastructure in the cloud of your choice, cloud vendor of your choice. And then you would, you know, go through these various steps outlined. And, you know, there's a database outage where, you know, you're snapshotting your database. Then you need to transport that data to the cloud provider. There's different ways of doing that. You know, you would have to work with your cloud provider to do that. Then you would do your importing. Then you would, you know, let's say you're moving from an older version of content server to a new one, you would then, you know, do your upgrade, and then there's a whole number of other tasks. So as you can see, you know, this is a very risky operation. it's you're scrambling to get things over to minimize your downtime, and it's time consuming and expensive. So a lot of companies, this is one of the big hindrance for doing this. Let's talk a little bit about what we offer. So the method we do to kind of get you to the cloud. We're going to talk about this solution called the Syntergy Upgrade Accelerator. And what this does, this solution does is, and Greg's going to talk a little bit more on the technical side, and he'll give you a little short demo so you get a flavor of what it looks like. But this solution is ideal for lifting and shifting your lift and shift method. So if you're on a content server 20.x environment, you want to move to the cloud, you could use it for that. You could use it for your re-platforming needs. So you might be an older version, let's say, and you're saying, okay, we want to do a parallel upgrade, but we want to move to the cloud as well. So you could use it for that. And then you could also use it for a scenario where there might be certain lines of businesses that are not cloud ready yet for compliance reasons. So you could move most of your lines of businesses to the cloud, but leave some behind, right? And keep the data synchronized that way. So these are some of the options we can talk about. There are two methods. We're going to, today we're going to demonstrate to you the option 2, but the two methods of doing this is, one is what we call the clone synchronization method, and this is ideal for large environments where you don't want to synchronize data over your wide area network. Where you want to just lift and or you want to lift and shift your existing infrastructure. And then the second method is called the synchronization method, and this would be ideal for smaller instances, let's say 3 terabytes, 5 terabytes, etc. of data. You might decide that you don't want to take all the data. Some data when you want to leave, it's like moving to a new home. You might say, I don't want to take all my furniture with me. I'll purge some. So you might decide I want to just take data selectively. So this method is ideal for that. Or as we talked about, coexisting with certain lines of businesses who are still on-prem. You might be in a situation, we find this quite a lot, that customers have multiple content servers, in their organizations, and they might consider it's time to consolidate. So you might want to merge these systems into one system in the cloud. So that's an option for you as well. Okay, so what is the infrastructure? Just a picture of what it would look like. So example, the top part of the screen is, you might have a content server 10.5 environment with just an example, one front end, one admin server, Oracle database might be running on Unix, and an external file storage system. Your new environment you're looking for is it could be in OpenText Google Cloud Computing Platform. It could be in Amazon AWS service. It could be in Microsoft Azure. You want to move the latest and greatest system, and then you might want to scale up your infrastructure to have multiple admin servers. You might want to change your database. You might want to implement your archive center. So these options, so you can definitely do that. You can mix and match, and you can change your infrastructure when you use the Syntergy Upgrade Accelerator. So I'm not going to go into details. I just wanted to give you as an alternate method, what we talked about versus doing this manually yourself. So if you were doing you were on a legacy system, you're at the high level steps. Let's say if you were on a content 10.5 system, here are the high level steps to get you to content server 21x in the cloud, right? So you would build your new environment in the cloud. You would install the Upgrade Accelerator module, Syntergy Upgrade Accelerator module, both on the source and the target system. Then you would do your copies across to the target infrastructure. And there's a short outage with this option. typically about 30 minutes, depending on the size of the database. You know, we do there's a method called mark for cloning. So we're really recording all your content server objects, what you have in your source system. It's pretty quick. And that's your end of your outage. And then the other steps are really working on the target system. You would connect to your new instance and do your upgrade. And then the upgrade accelerator will keep the data synchronized. And then once you've taken your time testing, validating your system, you're happy with it, you might need some training for your users, you can then cut over to the new system, right? So this is the option one. Option two, Greg's going to talk about today. He's going to show you how that works. This is really, you set up your new environment in the cloud, you install the upgrade accelerator on your source and target systems, you initialize your replication from your source, and you start synchronizing content. While all this is going on, your users are still working on the old system. No disruption to your business. You get plenty of time to test your system in the new environment. And once you've done your training and validated the system, then you can gradually cut over the users. You can also cut over users by lines of businesses. You might decide, I don't want to cut over everybody at the same time, so you can take your time cutting over your different lines of businesses. Okay, so why don't we, Greg, pass over the screen sharing to you, and you can share your screen and kind of run through the first option of how the upgrade accelerator works.
Will do. Thank you, BJ, for the introduction, and I should be sharing now. Hold up your hand if you cannot see my screen. Everybody see it? BJ?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, good. Okay, so just a real brief overview. Keep it simple and keep the demonstration quick. The upgrade accelerator is based upon Syntergy's proprietary replication engine technology. The technology was developed more than 20 years ago initially, and to address a customer's need to share content between Australia and outlying facilities spread across the Asia Pacific region. Product has undergone multiple generational releases since that time, and we're currently working on our fourth generation right now. It's been in production for better than 5 years, and it incorporates our plug-in technology, which allows us to address customized objects within Content Server. Many of our customers do have custom objects, custom code, and our plug-in technology really facilitates addressing those things very quickly and very efficiently. We do support multiple platforms, basically from 9.7 through Content Server 21.x, whatever it's going to be. We're in the final QA on our 21.1 release. It's in early release to customers, and we'll be, we keep in sync with Livelink / Content Server as it progresses through its various upgrades and releases. We have in the past actually performed lifts to the cloud for multiple customers. Our biggest customer actually uploaded 30+ terabytes of content from a Unix Oracle 9.7 instance into Azure with, obviously Windows and MS SQL. They went from 9.7 to, at the time, 16.2, and now it's CS 20.4, and they'll be upgrading to CS 21.1 in the not too distant future. But we still actually support their old 9.7.1. They're having a hard time getting off of it. So their customers are still feeding the 9.7.1, but they're using their new architecture for search and results. So it's kind of a hybrid environment for them right now. Okay, so let's get into the demonstration. What I have here is I have two content server instances. One's 10.5 and the other is content server 21, I think. I can't see it, but yes, it should be 21. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to lift this content, and I'll show you what's in this content. Basically, it's a folder structure with a number of items, some documents, some metadata categories, obviously audit history, ACLs, etc. What we're going to do is we're going to lift this into the cloud. And before we do that, just for point of reference, I want to make sure that everybody understands this tool is a content server module. It installs as any other module. It creates its own schema. If you were to uninstall our product, it takes that schema out for you. And it leaves no trace behind. So there's nothing, we do not affect the content server schema, kernel schema. We just add to it while our module is in place and you are performing this upgrade, transformation, consolidation, whatever you may do with the replication technology. Once it's taken out, we leave nothing behind. So let's go back to, and this is basically our set of administration pages. This up just a tad. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go back to the source side. We'll go over to the destination. Destination is empty, nothing there. If I go to the configuration page, bigger page, nothing there. Let's go back to here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a replication of this folder. Now, we can replicate at a higher level. We can replicate at a lower level. We can do very granular replications. But we're going to do it at the folder level here. All I have to do is modify it. Say I want full replication. Hit apply. I get a confirmation. We didn't used to confirm, but we've had several instances where customers have said, well, we put the enterprise inadvertently into a replicated state. And so, oh, okay, well, we can help you clean that up, no problem. But so we came up with a confirmation. Are you sure you want to do it? Yes. Okay. And what it does now is it's going through and it's identifying everything within that folder structure. There are 28 objects for all intents and purposes in this one, it's small. And it's setting them up to be replicated to the destination server. So what does replication mean in the context of what we're doing right here? Well, the tool is actually going through the folder structure and it's gathering all of the metadata associated with the folders and documents, including records management if you choose to have that, physical objects if you choose that, all the audit history. You can limit audit history to the last year, 5 years, 30 days, whatever it is. If you want to leave some of it behind, you have that capability. You also have the capability, actually, we provide the capability for customers to actually create read-only sites of content. So you could actually eliminate the ACLs. going to certain servers. And we do that for some outlier facilities that need the content for purposes of governance, but they don't ever edit or add to the content. Anyway, so what we've done is we put this in a replicated state. So we're gathering all this data, and what we do is we put it in a folder structure. So it's exported, and we create a folder structure of content. Let me go over here. And we put this in an orderly fashion in an export folder. It's specified in the configuration pages in a year, month, day, hour. Okay, and then it goes into a folder. The folder is kept until it's completed, and then we compress that folder into a zipped part. And you can see here the size of it is 8.66 megabytes. And the source, if we did the properties on it, probably not too much different because this is mostly binary content. If your content is documents, then the compression is obviously very good. In this case, it's binary, so we don't only get again a small portion compression. The part is then picked up by a process that's built into the replicator that makes an HTTP connection or an HTTPS connection to the other server, and then deposits that other server, accepts the content, and it puts it into a folder to be consumed. So you've got this folder coming across over to this folder, which is the import side, named the same way, so we can keep track of things being, performed correctly. And we can tell when the content is consumed, because everything comes in as a part, it's unzipped, uncompressed into a folder, and then the folder is then processed by content server. Once again, there's a process, little agent in the background telling content server to do something. It's identified that there is something in the folder to be worked on. Let's pick it up and see what it is. Okay, so I'm on the enterprise on the destination now. I'm going to refresh the page. And there we are. So we have the Cloudlift folder now in the enterprise. And if I look at the enterprise and the folder here, we can see the same objects from end to end. Go back over here. Let's go to the enterprise. Now, what we've replicated is entirely the same set of data, including all the audit history. How am I sure that that's the case? Well, I actually have the capability to run reports. It's built into the tool, and we'll go here, and I can do a comparison. So this is the source side. I'm going to compare it to the destination. So I want to just look at the object data. The object data is like the D-tree core rows, the D-tree ACLs, categories, etc. The high-level metadata associated with the content. Come on. Never fails to press. Let's just try it. Let's just wait for a second or two and check. Okay, so I can do a manual check on things too, though. If I go into the human resources folder, I can see that there are a number of objects. If I go over to the destination, I can see the human resources folder. There are the same objects. if I look at the, let's just check and see, I've got one of these at least in here that has category information. Okay, well, let's put a category on it. Okay. And we'll select authors and titles. And we'll give it a publication date today. And we'll call this Tom. And the title is webinar. And we'll submit it. So if I go back to the source side and the replication status, and I look at the dashboard, and this will refresh about every 5 or 10 seconds, we can see that import records are processed, export records are being processed right now, and we should be seeing a package coming out. And we do right here. We see a package being created, and we're going to wait for it to be, it goes to a state of done. And once it goes to a state of done, then we can go over and see it arrive in the destination. And so what are we looking at when we do actually create these folders? Well, I'll show you the first one. The first one is basically, this is the original push of the webinar folder. And it consists of a folder with a series of DAT files. DAT files are those content files, whether they be images, documents, whatever they might be, video, large video. That's all of that. That's the content. And then associated with the content, we have an XML file, proprietary to us, that records all the metadata associated with each of these objects. Now, when we actually push content from server to server, we put limits on how much can go out at any one point in time. Default is we will gather 50 megabytes of content, including both the content, the DAT files, and the XML data, because we have customers who have very, very long history with content server, and in those instances, oftentimes we will see objects with millions of audit records. So that would vastly exceed the 50 megabytes. So what we do in those cases is we break that up into multiple folders and then compress those folders into multiple parts, and then we ship the parts across, smaller packets. So while we'll gather 50 megabytes nominally, we may push it across the wire at 5 megabyte parts. Goes across very fast, and it reassembles lightning quick. And it's almost, with the exception of when we're sitting on-premises with servers closely associated to one another, basically same subnet, high speed, we typically break up the parts at least to 25 megabytes, and sometimes we'll go lower, to 5 or 2.5 megabytes. But overall, the overhead is almost insignificant.
Greg, if I can interrupt, I was just doing a time check here.
Okay, well, I'll do that in just a second.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, so the fact of the matter is, we have customers in the oil and gas business who have gigabyte files. So how do those go across? We actually create a folder with the gigabyte file and its metadata, and then we compress that into small parts. So a 2 gigabyte file would come across as 400 parts. And that's how we don't overwhelm the bandwidth of their network. Anyway, let's go over here and let's see if I got the category. Come on. Yep, and there it is. So this is on the destination, and we have the same category now. For all intents and purposes, the replicated site is exactly that. It's a replicated site. We do not change dates. We do not change names. We do not do anything of that nature. The only changes would be related to the specifics of the presentation on the destination. That's it. That's the demonstration.
Okay, great. Thanks, Craig. So as you can see, just from what Greg showed you, very easy to kind of, if you have that situation where you want to synchronize data across, set up your target environment, you're ready to go. I'm going to share my screen again, and one of the things what we recommend when you're moving to the cloud is to actually look at your data and optimize it. And this is the second sort of scenario that Robbie Spencer is going to demonstrate. And what we recommend is that, leverage, we've got a partnership with Foxit Software, who's an OpenText partner. They do great stuff with PDF documents. What this technology allows you to do is to leverage the server to compress and reduce the total amount of content, especially if you've got image-based content. You can reduce it by about 80%. What we also recommend is to convert your archives into searchable PDFs before the migration. This can be applied to both the born digital formats such as Office, email, HTML, etc., that have embedded images, but also TIFF image, TIFF and JPEGs. A lot of our customers are also moving to the new standard, the PDF/A standard. This is the ISO standard for document archives, and the benefit of this is for future compatibility. If you've got a format zoo in your archives, all the different types of documents, whether it's Office, whether it's TIFFs, whether it's JPEGs, our customers are now taking the time to actually convert. So you're compliant with your archiving, because generally, you want to be able to access the data if you have to in the future. And then finally, the compression, the document compression also helps you with saving costs, for your storage needs in the cloud. And for whatever reasons, if you get into a situation where you need to download a lot of information from the cloud, a lot of the cloud vendors ding you for egress charges. And so these are just some of the things we want to point out. Also consider having some kind of a data loss prevention strategy. Syntergy provides a tool called Content Sentry. We won't be demonstrating that today, but just wanted to kind of point that out. It's an application-centric tool that allows you to do that. So having said that, Robbie, why don't we do a quick demo on what the PDF optimization would look like? We've integrated this technology into Content Server, and Robbie's going to show you how you can easily convert your documents.
Okay, well, thank you, Vijay. So my name is Robbie Spencer. I'm a product specialist at Syntergy. So what I'll do today is just kind of demo the PDF compression technology that we built. So basically, as Vijay mentioned, Syntergy has partnered with technology companies like Foxit to offer kind of value-added solutions to Content Server. Syntergy obviously focuses on OpenText technologies, and Foxit, they specialize in PDF technologies. So it's almost like a win-win situation. So we can offer kind of the best-in-class compression and conversion technologies to Content Server users. So During the demo, Greg just kind of migrated to the destination server, the Cloud Lift webinar. Within that, we have some documents in the HR folder here, Human Resources. What we're going to do is we're going to quickly kind of compress these documents and look at the kind of the before and after picture of the compression technologies. But before I do that, I just wanted to kind of point out the Foxit rendition server, the DTS server. So this is the Foxit software that does all the PDF conversions, compressions, etc. So this software would be installed on a server, within your network or in the cloud, anywhere kind of where it makes the most sense, depending on your infrastructure. And this has the ability to scale as well. So you can have, if you're converting millions of documents a day, then you can scale it out to have multiple worker nodes, for example. So there's a single kind of managing node, and then you can scale it out to multiple servers, multiple cores, etc. So it scales really, really well. So that's what's going to be converting in the background. There's a concept in conversion server here called strategies, and strategies are very useful because when converting PDFs, if you're converting a TIFF file or a graphics file, you can have different settings than when you're converting Office documents, for example. So these strategies allow you to configure, or you can create new ones that are specific for the document types that you want to convert. There's lots and lots of PDF options here. I can show you kind of the quick overview. So you can see here, for example, I have my PDF options here. So all the various formats that we talk about in PDF formats. We have the PDF2A, U here, and you can choose whatever output format you want, and you can configure the strategy as you can see here. There's lots of other kind of PDF options that you can use when you're converting. I'll just kind of scroll through the list, redaction, etc. So there's lots of different options for converting PDF documents. So you can get very granular and very precise output. So with that being said, I'm just going to flip back to Content Server and then show you kind of very quickly how you can compress documents. So essentially, you can choose a document or a folder or multiple documents. And then on the menu here, when you install the module, just like Replicator, the PDF optimization module is installed within Content Server, and it creates a couple of new options on the menu. You can see compressed documents, merge documents. So compressed is more one-to-one. So you have a TIFF file, for example, here, that's going to be converted to a PDF. Merging is more a many-to-one. So you can merge many files into a single PDF, or if you're doing document assembly, creating packages and things like that of documents. And you can also do the opposite, where you have a single document and you can split it. So it means it's more of a one-to-many scenario. So you can split out to multiple PDFs if you needed to. But for the demo, I'm going to focus on the compression. So I selected a bunch of documents. I'm going to click on Compress. The documents here are listed on the top along with its size. I'm not going to go through a lot of the details in this for sake of time, but we choose a strategy. I just mentioned the concept of strategy. As part of the module, you can do an automatic mapping. So for example, the administrator can set it up such that TIFF files use strategy, born digital, or a vector strategy and so on. And Office documents or PDF documents can use a different strategy. And you can set that mapping up as an administrator and use the automatic mapping. So we'll just use that. For more advanced users, you can specify the strategy if you want to override that. So when the next section here is what do we want to do with the outputted document. So I'm going to leave it in the same location in this case so that we can kind of look at the source and the destination to kind of view the compression of those documents. So I'm just going to rename the original document to _converted so that we don't overwrite or create a version of that document. But you can obviously add a version. You can also do, if you're putting it in a new location, etc., a new folder. If, for example, if you wanted to create a published folder for all your PDFs, you can just copy that PDF to the published folder. More advanced options here, we have OCR. If you're merging and packaging, you can generate bookmarks, etc. setting passwords. This is supported for standard PDF only because in the PDF archive, PDF-A worlds, it's not recommended to set a password on that because those are meant for long-term record keeping. And in 10, 15 years, good luck trying to remember all those passwords that you set on those documents. So it's not recommended for setting passwords on PDF-A. Watermarks, headers, footers, etc. I'm going to very quickly go down to the job options here. So everything runs as a job here. So this conversion will kick off. I'm going to run it now, but you can also schedule these jobs to run at a specific time. So I'm going to go ahead and run it right now for demonstration purposes, and then I'm going to go to the conversion job. So what happens here, this is kind of the status of the job details. So there's an agent that runs in the background, and it picks up any new jobs that are created, and then it's going to take the document out of content server and send it to the Foxit rendition server for conversion. All the statuses and so on are here, so you can kind of see what's happening to those documents. And even if I flip over here now to the rendition server, you can see here I have total requests coming in of 8, and now they're successful, 8 process. Very quickly coming back in. So you can see here now that all those documents are completed. So I'm going to go back to my human resources folder, and we can kind of compare them here. So you can see here now the document, this TIFF file was 141K. It kind of compressed it down to 41K. So you get good compression on those. Every document is going to have a different compression ratio depending on what the contents are of those documents. You can get some kind of big ones here. For example, this 7 meg JPEG file was converted into a 108 kilobyte PDF file. The actual content of the file is very good quality as well. So if I open up this this TIFF file, for example, you can see it there. And I'll just go back and open up the PDF version of that file as well, just to show you. I'll download that. Okay, so here you can see here's the PDF version of that same file, which is kind of still good quality. Okay, so very quickly, I just wanted to show you the merge capabilities. I'm not going to actually go into the output because we don't have time. We're running time on the demo, but you can choose multiple documents. For example, here I'm going to choose this PowerPoint presentation, and I'll go ahead and choose this PDF file and go into the merge. So with merging documents, the first thing you do is change the order of the documents if desired. So you can say I want to put the PDF document first, followed by the PowerPoint presentation. And all the same options apply that we just discussed. All we do here is type in the actual new document name, so I can go merge documents. You can also apply OCR, generate bookmarks, table of contents, etc. And click the merge documents. So it's going to create a new job, and then that merge document will be created and put into content server. So if I keep refreshing, this will be picked up in about 30 seconds, and then merged and pushed back into content server. I'll keep refreshing here till it's done. And when you click on the job, you get a more granular view as well. So this is the high-level job. We're waiting for the conversion sent to rendition server, and these are the 2 documents that were converted. So this is converted now, or merged. So I can click on the link to get there very quickly and open up the merged document. And you can see here, my table of contents was added. Here's the content of the PDF. And we have the presentation. All the pages in the presentation were kind of created. And finally, we put in the bookmarks, etc. here as well, as we told it to. So with that being said, I know that was a very quick demo. I'm going to hand it back to Vijay to continue the presentation.
Thanks, Robbie. As you can see, what we recommend as part of your migration to the cloud, that definitely look at your content to compress, standardize, etc. So we can definitely help you in that area. And then finally, I know we've got a short amount of time left, so one of the things that we touched on, that these cloud-based technologies out there, services, are pretty pervasive in your organization today. You're using one of the many that are out there, anything from the Microsoft 365 platform to Box, Dropbox, Google, you name it, Microsoft Teams. And our customers have been asking us that, how do we keep our content server synchronized with this kind of these kinds of cloud services, so that for compliance reasons we can capture that data for records management, etc. So we partnered with a company called SkySync, and we've built a connector for content server, and Robbie's going to give you a very quick demonstration of what that would look like before we come to the hour mark. And what I would recommend is, if any of this is of interest to you, to contact us again, and we will set up a longer time for the demonstration. So Robbie, do you want to quickly take away and just do a quick preview of what the SkySync system looks like?
Absolutely. Thanks, Vijay. Okay, so yeah, just like our Foxit partnership, we've also formed a partnership with SkySync, and we co-developed a connector. So again, very quickly, I'm kind of walk through the demo here. So you can see here, I just created the files that I just converted. I put them over into a published folder. I just manually moved them over actually right now. So we have these converted PDF files, and they're kind of small, they're compressed. So what we're going to do is actually migrate those documents over into another system. So in my case here, I have a SharePoint system, but we can actually push those documents to any kind of platform, whether it be Box, Dropbox, etc. So we'll walk through the process of doing that very quickly again. So with SkySync gets installed on a machine, one or more machines within your network. And this is the engine that basically does the transfers from one platform to another. SkySync supports many platforms. So if you have various cloud storage services like Amazon, Box, Dropbox, these are all the valid connectors that are supported. So there's a long list of connectors. OpenText Content Server is the one that we co-developed with SkySync, and it's part of the core connectors. So once you have the connectors, I've created a connection already for sake of time to Office 365, which is going to be my destination. And I also created a connection to my destination server, the one that we were using in the demo today. So I have the two connections already. So now what we'll do is quickly walk through how to sync or even just migrate, push one way documents from one system to the other. So just like the PDF optimization tool, SkySync also has a concept of jobs. So we can create a job to do this migration. We can transfer it in one direction from source to destination. We can also sync it. So if you want both platforms, OpenText Content Server, SharePoint, Dropbox, syncing documents back and forth, you can set up a sync job as well. But for the demo, I'll just choose one way, source to destination, click on next. So here now is where I choose source and destination connection. So my source connection is going to be this Azure VM here. I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to choose what folder I want to sync. So I'm going to choose my publish folder that I just created. So I can navigate down through here. I find publish, use this path. So we'll migrate everything underneath that. On my destination, I'm going to choose Office 365. This is a team site that I have. And then I'm going to choose the document library within that team site, the shared documents. So I'm just going to move this window out of the way here just temporarily. just struggling to move this window out of the way. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a job here. I can't end the meeting. There we go. Okay, so click on next. You can categorize those jobs. We're not going to talk about that. So after we migrate the data or document from OpenText Content Server to SharePoint, we're going to keep the items in Content Server. We're not going to delete them, but it is an option. If you run the job multiple times, we can also transfer the new items over into SharePoint. If there's a version conflict, you have a choice here of what to do with those versions. You can keep both files with timestamp, prefer source, destination, etc. And what happens if you delete it on the Content Server? Do you want to delete it in SharePoint? There's lots of options here for zipping. So unsupported file types can get zipped. Unsupported file names can get renamed so that it matches the platform, because every platform kind of has its little intricacies. And we also support versioning as well. I'm just going to flip through. There's a filtering. We support metadata, so categories and attributes, etc., is supported as well. And we can filter data. So you can say, I want to migrate everything except for, documents that they'll just say include everything, for example, based on a rule. So age, date range, extensions, metadata, etc. So you can choose whatever pattern that you want to include in that. So I'm going to delete the rule. Yes, and move to the next. And this is basically a summary. Sorry, I'm moving very quick, but for lack of time, we can give this job. Again, we can schedule the job to run at a specific time or run it now. I'm just going to choose to run it now. And then we'll very shortly see this content kind of showing up in SharePoint. And this dashboard here is very unique as well. One thing I didn't mention is there's a concept called simulation job. So a simulation job basically is a job that runs kind of without transferring the data. So it can give you any indication of any problems or errors and so on. So you can kind of run it and fix any issues before they actually happen. So with that being said, I'm just going to go back here and go to our SharePoint site here so I can see the tab, and we should start seeing those contents come in very, very soon. So Vijay, with that kind of being said, rather than wait for these documents here, it's probably going to take another 30 seconds. Maybe we can hand it back to you to kind of.
Yeah. Thanks, Robbie, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I hope this was good information for you to take back. And what we'll do is we will follow up with a recording, and if you want to schedule a more detailed demo in any of these areas, let us know through our website, and we will definitely set up a discovery call with you and walk you through the process in detail. Also, I know Matt's been answering questions as we go along through the chat window, but if there's any more questions that come up and you don't need to run to another meeting, feel free to stay on and ask us any questions, or Matt, if there's any outstanding questions you want to take. But Robbie, do you just want to finish off here as to what just happened? Yeah.
Yes. So as you can see here, all the data was kind of migrated over into my SharePoint document library. All the these are the compressed files, so that your storage costs are lower in the cloud. So we have all the content here, along with all the, if we had any metadata, we could migrate that over as well. So that concludes the demo, Vijay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And so, as I said, Matt, is there any other outstanding questions?
Unmuted.
Chat that we need to address at this point in time? I know we're running a little bit over our allocated 1 hour, but
yeah, there's a question for Greg for Upgrade Accelerator, and that is it possible to schedule automatic jobs to replicate structures into the target content server environment?
Not really. I mean, we have implemented scheduling in the past it really depends on what kind of scheduling we're talking about. Is it just off-hours scheduling? Is it scheduled to be performed once a week? We need more details. Certainly we can do that because it's all driven by an agent. But typically we're doing real-time replication. So I just need details, and we can probably address that.
Okay. Well, Matteo is still on the call here. I'll see if he'd like to add anything to the question.
Sure.
Matteo, are you able to unmute yourself? If not, we can get. Yeah, we can get in touch with you after the. Oh, there we go.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, my question is if it's possible to schedule daily or with another frequency the replication of some structure inside the content server to maintain aligned the source system and the target system without a human operation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. One of the features of replication is it is constantly refreshing. So it's gathering it's actually identifying activity that's been performed on the source side, and it puts it in a queue, and then you decide which frequency you want to push it across. Typically, we push content every 5 minutes, so we want to keep the destination fresh and current, but we don't want to build up a backlog of differences. But you can change the frequency to run every hour, or daily if you wish. Once we identify a time to start sending that content, then we push everything that's happened up until that last refresh. Replication typically works best for most customers if we run it frequently, if it's run frequently, and it keeps the volume at a small level. That way you don't have large sets of data passing over the wire.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Greg. We have one other question regarding object IDs. Do they stay consistent between the source and the destination environments when using Upgrade Accelerator?
They do. But if you're doing a consolidation of multiple content servers or multiple Livelink / content servers into a single, then at that point in time, you'd have to determine which instance should retain the data IDs, and then the other servers would get new data IDs. Now, we do have a mapping table to identify what the data IDs are from the source to the destination. But we do have a capability, but you can't merge multiple servers and retain all the same data IDs. That you end up with collisions that are a problem. But if you're just going one for one, absolutely, we maintain the data IDs.
Okay, great. There's a couple of questions about the PDF optimization. If I could throw to Robbie for 2 seconds. How are the image files made searchable is the first one.
Well, when we convert the source document to the PDF, there's an OCR option there. So the OCR technology will make them searchable. So that's kind of how we do it. It is recommended to obviously make them searchable so that the content can be indexed by content server. The users can find the information easier. So it is a recommended option as well. Okay.
And another one related to PDF optimization. Can you integrate the PDF conversion process into a content server workflow?
Yes, absolutely. There's I didn't cover this in the demo, but there's a workflow step called PDF optimization that you can integrate into any of your workflows.
Great. Just one for SkySync. What systems can we connect and synchronize content server with?
Well, during the demo, I kind of showed you the connections that are available. So, but it's all the typical big, cloud providers: Dropbox, Box, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, etc. So all the big ones that you see out there are supported. And there's also an SDK. If there's a custom application that you have internally, there's an SDK available where you can create your own connection to anything that's not provided out of the box.
Okay, fantastic. A question just came in right now on the workflow step. Can we actually convert an e-form into a searchable PDF as a last step before publication into content server?
I don't think. I think the answer to that is no. Right now, we can only convert physical documents, but that's kind of something we could add to the product backlog and look into converting those forms to a PDF output.
Okay, great. So that's all the questions we have right now, Vijay.
Okay, thank you everybody for attending, and this concludes our webinar. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to schedule a more detailed meeting, we will, please visit our website, and we'll follow up with the recording. Again, thank you for attending, and we will now close out the webinar. Thank you.